Can a poor person really become rich? Or is wealth only meant for people who are born into rich families? Many people believe that poor people can never become rich. They believe that money belongs to the lucky ones, the people who are born with expensive houses, powerful families, and opportunities waiting for them. But the truth is different. Sometimes, the person who has nothing becomes the person who achieves everything. Because when you have nothing, you learn to value everything. You learn the value of one meal when you have been hungry. You learn the value of one opportunity when nobody has ever given you a chance. And you learn the value of money when you have spent your entire life worrying about it. This is the story of a young boy named Daniel. Daniel was born in a small, broken house at the end of a quiet village. The walls of his house were old. The roof leaked whenever it rained. And, during the cold nights, the wind entered through the cracks in the windows. Daniel did not have expensive clothes. He did not have a new phone. He did not have a car waiting outside his house. Sometimes, he did not even have enough food for the entire day. But Daniel had something that most people around him had already lost. He had a dream that was bigger than his poverty. Every morning, before the sun rose, Daniel woke up and went to work. He carried heavy boxes at a small market near the village. The work was difficult. His hands were often tired. His clothes became dirty. And sometimes, people treated him badly because they believed that a poor boy could never become anything important. One day, while Daniel was carrying a heavy box, a rich businessman walked past him. The businessman was wearing an expensive suit and a beautiful watch. Daniel looked at him for a moment. Then he looked down at his own old shoes. For a few seconds, he felt sad. He thought, "Why was I born poor? Why do some people have everything while others struggle for the smallest things?" That night, Daniel returned home exhausted. His mother was sitting near the window. She had prepared a small meal for him. There was not much food on the table, but she smiled and said, "Come, my son, eat." Daniel looked at his mother. He wanted to tell her about his dreams, but he was afraid. He was afraid that she would laugh. He was afraid that she would say, "People like us cannot become rich." But his mother did not laugh. Instead, she looked at him carefully and asked, "Why are you so quiet today?" Daniel took a deep breath. Then he said, "Mother, I want to become rich." For a moment, the room became silent. His mother looked at him. Then she smiled. "Why?" she asked. Daniel looked down at the small plate in front of him. "Because I am tired of seeing you worry about money." His mother said nothing. Daniel continued, "I am tired of watching you work when your body is tired. I am tired of seeing our house fall apart. And I am tired of people believing that because we are poor, we must remain poor forever." His mother slowly held his hand. Then she said something Daniel never forgot. "My son, being poor is not a crime, but believing that you will always remain poor can become your greatest prison." Those words stayed in Daniel's mind. That night, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about what his mother had said. He looked around his small room. There was an old bed, a broken table, and a small lamp that often stopped working. But that night, Daniel saw something different. He did not see a poor room. He saw the beginning of his story. The next morning, Daniel made a decision. He decided that he would not spend his entire life complaining about what he did not have. He would learn. He would work. He would fail. He would try again. And he would continue until his life changed. But Daniel did not know something. The road from poverty to success was going to be much harder than he imagined, because the first person who would try to stop him would not be a stranger. It would be someone he trusted, someone who would look at his dream and say, "People like us are not meant to become rich." The next morning, Daniel woke up before sunrise. For the first time in his life, he felt that something different was about to happen. He had been given an opportunity. It was not a big opportunity. It was not a high-paying job. It was not the kind of opportunity that would immediately change his life. But to Daniel, it meant everything. Because sometimes, the first step toward success does not look like success. Sometimes, it looks like a small chance, a small job, a small idea, a small decision. But if you take that small opportunity seriously, it can become the beginning of something much bigger. Daniel got out of bed quietly. His mother was still sleeping. He did not want to wake her. He washed his face with cold water and stood in front of the small mirror hanging on the wall. The mirror was cracked. His reflection was divided by a long line across the glass. Daniel looked at himself for a few seconds. His clothes were old. His shoes were worn out. But his eyes were different. There was something inside them that had not been there before. Hope. Daniel smiled slightly. Then he whispered, "Today is the beginning." He did not know whether it truly was, but he wanted to believe it. Before leaving the house, he looked at his mother. She was still asleep. Daniel quietly placed a small blanket over her. Then he left. The new shop was located near the center of the village. It was larger than any shop Daniel had ever worked in. The walls were freshly painted. The shelves were filled with products. There were boxes everywhere, and behind the counter stood the businessman who had given Daniel the opportunity. His name was Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison was a serious man. He did not smile much. He had spent many years building his business. He had started with a small shop in the city. Now, he owned several businesses. Daniel admired him, not because he was rich, but because he wanted to understand how he had become rich. When Daniel entered the shop, Mr. Harrison looked at him. "You came early." "Yes, sir." "Good." Mr. Harrison pointed toward an old computer. "Sit there." Daniel sat down. Then Mr. Harrison placed a large stack of papers on the table. "These are sales records." Daniel looked at the papers. There were hundreds of them. Some were handwritten. Some were printed. Some were difficult to understand. "I need you to enter all of these into the computer," Mr. Harrison said. Daniel looked at the computer. It was old. The screen was thick. The keyboard had several missing buttons, but Daniel did not care. He had never owned a computer. To him, even this old computer felt like a valuable opportunity. "You know how to do this?" Mr. Harrison asked. Daniel hesitated. He knew the basics, but he had never done this kind of work before. "I can learn," Daniel said, ... Mr. Harrison frowned. I did not ask if you can learn. Daniel became nervous. I asked if you know how to do it. Daniel looked down. Then he decided to be honest. Not completely, sir. For a few seconds, Mr. Harrison said nothing. Daniel thought he had already lost the job, but then the businessman said, Good. Daniel looked surprised. Good? Yes. At least you are honest. Mr. Harrison pointed at the computer. Learn quickly. Daniel nodded. He began working. At first, everything was difficult. He did not know where to click. He entered some numbers incorrectly. He forgot how to save a file. Several times, he had to ask questions. He felt embarrassed, but he reminded himself of something. There was no shame in not knowing something. The real shame was refusing to learn. So, whenever he did not understand something, he asked. Whenever he made a mistake, he corrected it. Whenever he failed, he tried again. The first day was exhausting. Daniel worked for hours. His eyes hurt from looking at the computer screen. His back hurt from sitting in the same position. But he did not complain. At the end of the day, Mr. Harrison checked his work. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at Daniel. You made several mistakes. Daniel lowered his head. I am sorry. Mr. Harrison shook his head. Do not apologize for making mistakes. Daniel looked at him. Then what should I do? Learn why you made them. Daniel remained silent. ... Mr. Harrison continued. A mistake is expensive only when you repeat it. Those words stayed in Daniel's mind. The next day, he arrived even earlier. He reviewed everything he had done wrong. He wrote down his mistakes. Then, he made sure not to repeat them. Daniel slowly became better. He learned how to manage records. He learned how to communicate with customers. He learned how businesses worked. He watched everything. He listened carefully. He asked questions. And he wrote everything in his notebook. While other workers finished their work and went home, Daniel stayed and observed. He wanted to understand the entire business. Where did the money come from? How did the shop attract customers? Why did some products sell quickly while others remained on the shelves? Why did some customers return again and again? Daniel studied everything. He began to realize that successful people did not simply work. They observed. They noticed problems. And then they searched for solutions. One afternoon, Daniel noticed something. Many customers were coming into the shop, but some of them left without buying anything. Daniel wondered why. So, he began paying attention. He noticed that the shop was not organized properly. Products were placed randomly. Some items were hidden behind other items. Customers often asked the workers where they could find certain products. Sometimes they became frustrated. Daniel wrote everything down. The next day, he approached Mr. Harrison. Sir, can I make a suggestion? Mr. Harrison looked at him. What is it? Daniel explained what he had noticed. He suggested organizing the shop differently. He suggested placing popular products in more visible places. He suggested creating a simple list of products. He suggested making it easier for customers to find what they needed. Mr. Harrison listened. Then he said, You have been here for only a few weeks. Yes, sir. And you think you understand my business? Daniel quickly shook his head. No, sir. Then why are you giving me advice? Daniel took a deep breath. Because I am not saying that I understand everything. I am only saying that I noticed a problem. Mr. Harrison looked at him. For a moment, Daniel thought he had made another mistake. But the businessman finally said, Show me. Daniel spent the entire evening organizing the shop. He moved some products. He created a simple system. He made a list. The next day, something unexpected happened. Customers began finding products more easily. People spent more time inside the shop, and more people began buying things. Mr. Harrison noticed. At the end of the week, the shop had earned more money than usual. Mr. Harrison called Daniel into his office. Daniel stood nervously. Did I do something wrong? Mr. Harrison looked at him. No. Daniel was surprised. Then why did you call me? Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair. Where did you learn to think like this? Daniel thought for a moment. I read. You read? Yes. What do you read? Anything I can find. Mr. Harrison looked at him carefully. Then he asked, Do you want to remain an employee forever? Daniel was shocked by the question. He did not know how to answer. Finally, he said, No. Mr. Harrison nodded. Good. Daniel looked confused. Why? Because the person who wants to remain an employee forever will only do what he is told. But the person who wants to build something of his own will learn how everything works. Daniel listened carefully. Mr. Harrison continued, If you want to become successful, stop asking only, How much will I earn? Start asking, What value can I create? Daniel never forgot those words. That night, he wrote them in his notebook. What value can I create? He began thinking about it. He had no money, no business, no investment, no wealthy family. But maybe he could still create value. He started looking at problems differently. Before, when he saw a problem, he felt helpless. Now, he asked himself, Can I solve this? One day, Daniel noticed that many small businesses in the village had the same problem. They did not keep proper records. They did not know how much they were earning. They did not know which products were selling. They often lost money without realizing it. Daniel saw an opportunity. He thought, maybe I can help them. But there was a problem. Daniel did not have a computer. He did not have money to buy one. He did not even have enough money to rent an office. For a moment, he felt discouraged. Then he remembered something. He did not need to start big. He only needed to start. So Daniel began offering his help to small shop owners. At first, he worked for free. Some people laughed at him. Others refused. One shopkeeper looked at him and said, You? Daniel nodded. Yes, sir. The shopkeeper laughed. You are just a poor boy. What can you possibly teach me about business? Daniel felt hurt, but he did not argue. He simply thanked the man and left. Another shopkeeper agreed to let him help. Daniel worked for several days. He organized the shop's records. He calculated the sales. He found mistakes. He showed the shopkeeper where money was being lost. At the end of the month, the shopkeeper realized that Daniel had helped him save money. The man was impressed. How much do I owe you? He asked. Daniel had never thought about it. He said, "Whatever you think is fair." The shopkeeper gave him a small amount of money. It was not much, but Daniel looked at that money for a long time. It was the first money he had earned from his own idea. Not from carrying boxes, not from working for someone else, but from solving a problem. Daniel went home that evening with a smile. His mother noticed immediately. What happened? Daniel placed the money on the table. "I earned this." His mother looked at the money. Then she looked at him. "How?" Daniel smiled. "I helped someone." His mother smiled too. That is how many successful businesses begin. Daniel looked at her. "What do you mean?" People think businesses begin with money. But many businesses begin with a problem. Daniel remained silent. His mother continued, "If you can solve a problem for people, they will value your solution." Those words made Daniel think deeply. He began to understand something.